What's up, my set souls? It's your girl Evie coming back to you again. I'm coming back to you again with another subject, something that we would love to talk about. We're going to be talking about all things Law and Order SVU Season 22, Episode 1. Okay, so if you don't know the name of this channel, the name of this channel is Because Evie Said So. I'm Evie. Thank you for being here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I really appreciate you guys taking your time out of the day to come and spend it with me. Okay, let me tell you what we're eating on today. Today we have okra, fried okra with some hot sauce. We have a steak sandwich with peppers, not green peppers. We have a Parmesan cheese sandwich, chicken Parmesan sandwich. So we're going to be eating on that today. Well, let's stop for a minute. Let me grab a napkin here because I don't have any napkins over here. All right. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. I know I already said that. And like I said, we're going to be discussing the new episode that SVU came out. And let me tell you, let me preface it with, if you haven't seen it, this is going to spoil it for you, but I think you should have seen it by now because it's been a couple of days since it's been out. But this episode thoroughly pissed me off. And I don't usually not love Olivia. I usually love Olivia, but I'm telling you, I was shook by this episode and I was angry because it's taken right from the headlines. And I'm going to be reading some notes. So if you see me looking away from the camera, don't think I'm ignoring you. Just know that I'm reading the notes that I actually have so I can bring all the valuable information to you. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and bless our food. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this food. We thank you for everybody that's here. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Amen. Okay, now when the episode starts, we see a lady in the park, and she's terrified. She's on the phone with the police. She's calling them on a black man that happens to be in the park, who she says is scaring her son. Where have we heard this before? Okay, we heard this with the Karen that was in the park that was going off on the bird watcher while she was walking her dog in the park, and she called the police on him, and it kind of like turned around on her. But this is ripped right from the headlines, similar to what I just said. So, like I said, this lady is calling the police on a black man in the park. Now, what's he doing in the park? He's just working out. He says he's working out. He's not scaring her son, but she is got that whole, oh my God, it's a black man in the park and he's terrifying my son. Please send the police. Okay, come on now. Come on with the drama, lady Karen. Okay, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification button down below so you'll know when a girl is coming back to you. I try to upload at least once a week. I'm working on twice a week, but we'll get there. Okay, so let's get back to the story here. Okay, now when the police show up after being called, what happens then? Well, the same thing that happens all the time. They start to surround the black people and take the sides of the white woman as they usually do. Drinking on some Kool-Aid today, like a lemon Kool-Aid. Try this okra. I love okra, y'all. Now, when the police come out, they automatically assume that we're the guilty ones. It's ingrained in them. It's how they were taught. It's the bias that they grew up with and that was created in society by stereotypes, okay? So they do this to us all the time. Now, what they do, the police asked him, the black guy, for his ID. We now know his name is Javon Brown. But he says, I'm not giving you no ID. I know my rights. I didn't do anything wrong, so I'm not giving you anything. Well, the white lady's still acting crazy. And now we know that she thinks that Javon is suspicious. Well, right away, Olivia gets to the scene, Amanda gets to the scene, and Finn gets to the scene. So they're assessing the situation based on the police. At this point, the police have already thrown this man to the ground, said that he's being uncooperative and combative, and they have him in handcuffs. So when Javon sees Olivia, he says, don't I know you? And she's like, I'm going to ask the questions here. So I'm wondering, where does she know him from? Let me get a bite of this sandwich before it gets cold. I hate cold food. Mm. Mm. Oh my God. That's good. That's good. Mm. Chicken Parmesan sandwich? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Okay. So, anyway, Olivia feels that due to the police's description of what's going on, that he automatically fits the profile. How convenient. Okay? He automatically fits the profile. Why? Because he black and he in the park and he minding his business. And this lady has prejudices of her own. So now she's going to have the police come out. Okay, yeah, right. He fit the description. Got some pudding, y'all. So, Finn tells Olivia that this guy has outstanding warrants. That's what the police tell him, is why they actually have him in handcuffs, not because he's black. Okay, so he says to the police and Olivia, the warrants are nothing. They're for protesting. He got arrested for protesting, and he ended up didn't go to his court date, so it's nothing. But they are going to arrest him based on that because they feel like the man fits the profile. Now, why does he fit the profile? Because this crazy lady and her son are out in the park and the boy wanders off into the bushes. What does he find in the bushes? He finds a man that's semi-conscious, has been raped, and has been assaulted. So now they really panicking. They like, okay, this guy really fits the profile. Now we got this guy that has been raped, who happens to be a Filipino. We know now that his name is Eric. I'll get to his name, but anyway, his name is Eric. And they get to Eric and they get him on an ambulance. They try to ask him who assaulted him, but he can't answer. He goes into a coma. So he doesn't even identify his assaulter. You see what I'm saying? The person that raped him. So what are they going on? He fit the profile for what? You assuming that he did it. And the white lady back there cheering him on. Okay? We learned that her name is Colleen. So I'm going to start referring to her as Colleen, the Karen. Okay? So Olivia tells them, because it's all kinds of cameras out there, people on their cell phones, they broadcast it live, because at this point, COVID is rampant, and Breonna Taylor has been murdered by the police, and George Floyd has been murdered by the police. So everybody's on edge as it is. There's no trust for the police, so everybody's out there filming to make sure everything is everything. So Olivia tells Finn to go ahead and take Javon into custody because he has an outstanding warrant. Now, at first I thought she was just trying to have them avoid the cameras, but the more and more we move on, I don't know. And Finn looks at her like, do you know what you're doing? I mean, there's several cell phones looking at us in the air. Amanda's trying to get people to back up out her face because they're filming her live. And, Finn is very uncomfortable with just arresting this man for no doggone reason. So, like I said, people don't trust the police at this time. So, I guess he was just like, okay, I'll do what my captain tells me to do. So he does it. Now, during the time of questioning of Javon, the white lady, Colleen Reynolds, Miss Karen, when I say that her son found the body in the bushes, that the man had been assaulted, he was almost unconscious, he went unconscious and did not identify his rapist. Now, at the station, they grilled Javon Brown, and he's upset because he's like, I'm not going to answer any of your questions. I'm not even supposed to be here. And he gets so mad. Sorry, y'all. He gets so mad, and he tells Finn, he's mad, but he's not big mad, like going to hurt somebody mad. He tells Finn, I expect this nonsense from her, but doesn't this get old for you, man? Unquote. Now, Jovan was asked why he was, even there in the park so early. He explains to them he works the night shift at a parcel company, and he comes, to the park in the morning to work out. That he works the night shift, and that's what he was doing. He then tells them, because they're like, that still doesn't explain the timeline exactly. He tells them he was at an AA meeting before he came to the park. So he left his night shift job at 5, went to a meeting 5:45, and got to the park about 7:30. Okay? So we see later that Jovan has a very convincing alibi as to why he's not guilty. He met with his sponsor at 6. They went for a walk. Then they went to the AA meeting, and then he came to the park. So the scene turns to Eric Aquino, the 27-year-old Filipino worker. He's faded in and out of consciousness. He's at the hospital now. They go to the hospital to see if Eric is going to wake up and identify his assaulter, but he doesn't wake up. And they've soon learned that through one of the physicians there, that Eric has a different lifestyle that he's living and that his family doesn't know about it. So essentially, we find out that Eric is gay, okay? But I don't think his mom knows. His mom is at the hospital. She's praying. It's her son. She wants him to get better. They don't understand why they haven't done more to the black guy, is what she calls him, the black guy. Now, after talking to his mom, who's distraught with her son's condition, we see that the brother comes up to Olivia and Amanda as they're getting ready to leave the hospital. He tells them that his brother is gay and that his brother has been going to these outdoor bars, even though COVID-19 is so rampant. He wants to get out there, I guess, and play around, and he shouldn't be doing that. That part. I'm finna taste this steak sandwich, y'all. Hold on, because I think it's gonna fall apart. Oh my God. Give me a second. Okay. Wow. That horseradish kicked in. It is very flavorful. Oh my God. And the peppers on there just make it everything. Oh my God. So anyway, the brother explains to them his brother has a lifestyle he doesn't think his mom knows. And at this point, he just wants to catch his brother's assaulter. Now, after getting back to the station, they continue to drill Jovan on his whereabouts, where he was in the park. And why? Well, he already told them that. He refuses to communicate with them. He knows he's done nothing wrong, yet they found that male victim and they're trying to pin it on him. Well, he explains to them that the reason why he was at an AA meeting is because he had an accident last year and got dependent on oxycodone. Well, we know oxycodone is a real problem for a lot of people. So kudos to him for being able to recognize that he had a problem and to start getting some help for it. That's why he's in AA. But he doesn't want his boss to know that. He's trying to advance through the ranks and get a better position. And if the boss knows that, he's not going to give him a better position. He's going to think bad of him. Well, the SVU crew explains to him that he won't hear that information from them. So, about his previous addiction. The video that has been shot in the park has gotten over 5 million hits on it. And the SVU is being seen as biased and racist every time it's played. Did they get the right guy? Obviously not. Amanda retraces Eric's steps to the bar and has a conversation with the owner. He's an Irish guy. His name is Donovan, and he says that he's never seen Eric or the picture of the guy that Eric was supposedly with as they got it from the traffic cam footage. Now, with the traffic cam footage, they find out that the guy's name is Joe Murphy, who happens to have been with Eric the last time before Eric, I guess, had this accident or was assaulted. So the owner of the guy, the bar, Mr. Donovan, says to them, "You can't look at my footage, not without a warrant." So, of course, they're upset. Amanda and Kat, the new officer there, they walk out. Kat says, it's okay. We got this footage. Let's go ahead and, trace him down, basically. So they walk out, disappointed, but they still on a mission. Now, the guy was actually out there protesting. That's what Amanda realizes. She's like, this guy here? I saw him out there protesting, talking about defund the police. He was out there actually filming. So he was at the scene of the crime that he had come back to. So with the traffic footage and Eric actually with Joe actually walking with Eric, they seem to think maybe he's the one that assaulted Eric. Now, after they get back to the station, they talk to his ex-girlfriend who happens to come in, and she mentions that Joe was violent with her too. Okay? Now, he's 25 and he's still living with his mother. Okay? So that's saying something right there. And don't get me wrong, if you're 25 and you're still living with your mother, but you on your grind, do you, boo-boo? You could be stacking your paper until you can buy your own home. That I understand. That's smart. Okay? But she was referring to that because to her, that's just a put down for him. Okay? She broke up with him because he was violent. That's a good clue. So they end up going to his house. When I say they, I mean Amanda and Kat. So they asked him to come down to the station. Now, before they can even really ask him to come down to the station and get it out, he volunteers to come help the police prove that they've done nothing wrong. Because he's like, do you need my help? Do you need my help to make sure that everybody knows the police did everything they're supposed to do? And they're like, yeah, we need you to come down and tell everybody we didn't do anything wrong. Help us keep our reputation intact. Because according to the video, they look really prejudiced when they're not. He agrees, and he agrees to go down with them. Now, when he comes down to the station, of course, he's got a mask on because before he leaves, Joe's mom is insistent that he put his mask on. Smart mom, okay? That's what she's supposed to do. Dangerous times out here. COVID is rampant. So once he's down at the station, they want to know if he will give a sample of his DNA to see if he is the one that assaulted Eric, okay? And they like, well, how are we going to get it? I don't think he's going to volunteer it. Well, Finn says we don't need his permission. He's got a mask on. The mask has his DNA on it. Let's go ahead and give him a fresh mask, is what Kat says. So she goes in there and she gives him a fresh mask, an N95. That's a great mask. And she takes the other mask and puts it in a Ziploc bag. Actually, she has him put it in a Ziploc bag. And he's none the wiser. He doesn't even think they're trying to get his DNA. He tells the police he walked Eric to the park, that he has a fiance, that he's not gay, that he's done nothing wrong. They can call his fiance. Then he volunteers to call his fiance for them. And they're like, no, we got this. We got this. We're going to go ahead and call her ourselves. So they call the fiance, I guess, and they figure out that she's lying. But there's a possibility that she's lying. Well, I got a little bit of that hot sauce and that hot pepper. Before they even leave the room, he's got this smug look on his face. Like, you ain't gonna catch me, okay? So, meantime, they have nothing on Javon. As his sponsor, he gives his sponsor permission to talk to them about where he was with the SVU. And the sponsor verifies with the SVU that he was where he said he was. He was with him, the sponsor. They walked, they went to the meeting, and then he went to the park. Also, he vouches for his character. He says, look, I got about 10, 12 people that can testify right now that this guy is a good guy. And he offers him a lawyer because obviously he's a lawyer. He says, you want a lawyer for my firm? So he's a lawyer. Javon says, well, it's up to them. Do I need a lawyer? And they're like, no, you can go. So they work the paperwork and they let him go. But before they let him go, They ask him to help them. They have another suspect in mind, Joe Murphy. And he says, I'm not going to help you. Why would I help you? And I get it. I understand. They have arrested this man for no doggone reason other than the fact that he was black. And a white lady pretended she needed some aid and she was scared. And he has a right to his anger. So he doesn't help him. And I don't blame him. I wouldn't either. So shortly after that scene, we cut to the chief. The chief is coming to visit Olivia and Finn and tells them shortly after that a lawsuit has been filed against them. Captain Olivia Benson and Lieutenant Tutuola, they're in shock, but they understand that Javon has go ahead and filed a lawsuit against them. He tells Olivia to get a lawyer, the chief does, and he tells her that the IEB is going to be asking some questions of her tomorrow to keep them short and sweet. He tells her basically, watch her back. With the civil unrest that's been happening around the country and behind the murder of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, the trust in the police is at an all-time low. He tells them to do whatever is necessary to look better in front of the people and not go by the other book. They could look better if their ideals were better, but, we're going to see what happens. Now, the chief says, hey, Finn, walk out with me. So Finn and him walk to his car. And while they're walking to his car, he asks Finn basically to look out for himself. He tells him, you need to watch your back. You need to look out for number one. He asks, do you think there was any biasness with Olivia? Do you think she's biased? And he tells her he's been working with her for 20 years. And he's never seen Olivia show any type of bias or prejudice at all. And then he tells him, well, I had to ask, He reminds Finn that this is his second lawsuit this year because Finn shot an armed black man that was essentially trying to harm his son in his home. So he's got a lawsuit going against him for that, for endangering, I guess, the child at this time or shooting the man in the wrong. I don't know, but he's being sued for it. He reminds him of that again and that the agency and the organization that they work for will get rid of him as a pawn to look better in society's eyes. So we next see Olivia sitting in a room. She's waiting for the investigator to enter the room. And when she does, she's a beautiful African-American woman. And Olivia doesn't have a lawyer. And we learned that this person's name is Captain Curry. She's a captain too. But she's also an investigator. She indicates to her that she needs a lawyer. Olivia says, I don't want a lawyer. So she starts to tape. Even though Olivia is uncomfortable with what's going to happen. So Captain Curry and her actually met before, but Olivia doesn't remember it. They met at Tucker's funeral. Okay? Then she starts asking her a series of questions. And she answers them. And basically she says, look, I'm not prejudiced. I'm aware of how this may look. I'm aware of what goes on with black people every single day. That jingling, that's my dad's dog. We put a jingle bell around her neck because she's always going somewhere. And we want to keep up with her. Okay? So don't judge me. Jingle bell. Please excuse it. That's the dog. But anyway, she says, I'm not prejudiced. And Captain Curry says she remembers, she asked her, do you remember a stop and frisk that happened August the 6th, 2013? And Olivia's like, well, you're going to have to explain that a little bit more. I don't really know what you're talking about. Well, she says, one of the guys that you stopped and frisked at that time was Javon Brown. Wow. So she's got a history with this guy. And Olivia doesn't even remember. But it's been years. How do you remember every single case? But Olivia's brain comes back and she remembers that they were looking for a serial rapist and he might have fit the profile. She said that's why we had to stop and frisk him, because he fit the profile. And the black officer, the captain, looks at her like, wow. So she doesn't recall that, but it actually happened. So Captain Curry asked her, did you run the white lady's information? Did you run Colleen Reynolds' information, who has a history of false accusations and actually has a restraining order against her from her own husband? So Captain Curry stops her right there because Olivia tells her, I should have. I'm sorry. That was my mistake. And she tells her, I'm going to stop you before you say that we're allies. She explains to Olivia in great detail that due to the civil unrest in the country and the racist thoughts and deeds of some cops, they all fall into two categories with her now. She deems them as guardians and gladiators. And that's the name of this episode, Guardians and Gladiators. She tells Olivia that even though she's not racist or biased, she could be. Not explicitly, but implicitly. Because we're taught in life some things. We assume some things of the other religions. We assume some things of the other races. We are brought up to have some biases as we grow up. It's not completely our fault. And as adults, you get an opportunity to change your mind on that as you learn more and more about people and kindness and compassion and humility. So sometimes that bias just doesn't leave us. And the investigator, Captain Curry, once again takes Olivia to school and tells her that the biases are in the society as a whole. So she tells Olivia that when she interviews other officers, they're mad. They're big mad at her because she's black, number one. And she can see that in them. She can see the racism in their eyes. That Olivia is not classified as a gladiator like them because they're the baton swinging cops that she's classified in her mind as a guardian. But even some of them are still biased. Even guardians can be biased. Bias means prejudice of another person compared to another group of persons. She wants to understand that the systemic racism is still in the NYPD. And Olivia acknowledges that she understands that there is racism in the NYPD, but she's not racist. She tells her that the bias is ingrained in all of us, and she too struggles with her biases every day. She has to deal with situations every day that she sees are wrong, but she can't say anything or do anything because of her position as well. But she wants everybody to take a hard look at themselves and help deal with it. So when they make decisions and choices, things turn out a little bit better. Now, Olivia is shocked. She's being grilled like this, and she listens closely to the investigator, and she's saying that, Olivia is taking it to heart, and she's learning because she's Olivia. She has compassion. She learns on the job consistently. No matter how up she goes in the hierarchy, she's still learning. And she thinks the arrest was warranted and that Javon fit the profile and that they did everything by the book. But she also realizes that she might have some biases and that she should have questioned the white lady, Colleen Reynolds. She should have run her information. And then she would have seen that this lady makes false accusations, and maybe things would have turned out a little bit differently. Maybe Javon wouldn't have went to jail. And it's good that he's even alive because the police took him down so hard, I thought they were possibly going to show him being killed, like George Floyd. In the meantime, Joe Murphy has lawyered up. He's got one that was provided for him with the Irish bar owner, Mr. Donovan, who happened to be close friends with his mother. Close friends. He now claims that he had consensual sex with Eric, but was ashamed to say it before. He says, I'm bisexual, and I didn't come out the closet, but now out the closet. He tells him that Eric became aggressive with him and offered to satisfy him with copulation. We know it as another word. It begins with B and ends with job. Okay, he says he was freaked out. He pushes Eric aside and he runs. Then he says that Eric runs after him. Complete lies, okay? Lies. Complete lies. He says he pushed Eric, but not hard enough to hurt him, and that he was on his way home. He's lying, of course. SVU has to prove it, though. The case is given over to Carisi after Joe has been arraigned because they arrest him for attempted murder. We see them go to court, and Joe takes the stand after others testify to Eric's character, that Eric is a great guy and he would never hurt anybody, and that they're very saddened that this has happened to him. Now, there are other jurors in the room, and they have several questions involving biases that they believe the police have and racist acts that they've seen the police do against their own kind. And as they get on Finn, because one of them says, well, you arrested him just because he was black, right? And I have a video that I'm going to insert in here so you can see what actually happened in court. It's very brief, but make sure you watch it all the way to the end, and then I'm going to continue forward. So we're going to take a break right now.
Can you tell me?
Okay, now we're back. Now, he did the right thing. When people feel like they're at a disadvantage, sometimes they lash out at you. And Finn knows that they did everything by the book, but the book isn't always written right, okay? But he can't really say that. But Carisi feels like he was on the stand and not happy about what he actually did. Now, Carisi starts questioning Eric because Eric has all of a sudden questioning Joe, excuse me, y'all, because Joe has all of a sudden said, I want to get on the stand. So he testifies and he lies and he says the police are lying to them. He tells the jury that he's a victim, so is Javon, so is Eric, and that they're all there because of the bias that's been shown by the NYPD. He tells them that the police are lying to them, tells them he's getting flack because he was the one who filmed the whole incident with Javon Brown. And at this time, there's so much distrust for the police that this throws reasonable doubt into the jury's mind. I mean, he wants him to be indicted. Well, we find out there's no indictment. The people have come back and say he's not guilty. They don't need to indict him. And he's not getting any jail time. He's free to go. His lawyer starts to gloat about the win with Carisi. Carisi is devastated. He knows that a rapist just walked. Now, because of the negative publicity they received from the video of them arresting the wrong man, just because it fit the profile as a black man that is scared a good white person, they lost the case that matters the most. Eric is still in a coma. His family is still praying for him, waiting for him to wake up. There's not going to be any justice for Eric. He can't say who did it, and they're not going to wait until he can say who did it. So that's just over with. So just before Olivia is scheduled to go home, she meets the chief in his car in the parking lot to discuss how the investigation is going. He tells her that it would be better if Finn testified at the grand jury, which he did. So I'm going back a little bit. And she knows it's because she's white that she couldn't go and testify. And she tells him about the interview, and he suggests for her to watch her back. Because the department, once again, will get rid of him and her and Finn. She admits to the chief that she now sees that in some ways she made a couple of mistakes, that she may have biases within her that were ingrained in her over time. She is so devastated about that and so wrought about it that she wonders, has it influenced her decisions, her choices in other cases? And she tells the chief that she is just really flustered about it and it's really bothering her. Now, she also asks him, is that why you told Finn to tell me to watch my back? And he tells her that when an organization, quote, feels threatened, they will not hesitate to get rid of a few pawns, unquote. That there's going to be a purge of people leaving and for her to be very careful. Olivia comes home after that and finds her son Noah in his room, looking at his phone, probably watching some videos like all kids do. She picks up his dirty clothes on the floor of his room, just like all moms do. I know I do it. And asks him what he's watching. And he says to her, Mom, I'm watching the video of you arresting the wrong man. He tells her the whole school knows and he feels bad. He asks his mom, he says, Mom, are you racist? She assures him that she's not. She says, Noah, no, I'm not racist. He then poses the question to her, why can't you just tell him you're sorry like he does when he makes mistakes? He explains to her, you make me apologize when I make mistakes. And she tells him there's a lawsuit going forth and that she's not allowed. Look at this. I got chocolate on here. Anyway, she says she's not allowed to talk to him. So she can't apologize. And he says, well, Mom, basically, yes, you can. And really, you should. And this is where we see the innocence of children. Children are sorry for what they do, and then they move on. But they learn. They learn to be kind. They learn to be good. They learn to be compassionate. They learn humility. They learn how to be a good person if we teach them that. And she's been teaching her son to be a pretty good person. So the next thing, we see Olivia at the park catching up with Jovan, who is exercising like he does every morning there. He asks her what she wants, that he's not dropping the lawsuit against her. She tells him she's not there for that. She offers her sincerest apologies for arresting him. She tells him that Colleen Reynolds, the white woman that started all of this, is now being arrested and charged with filing a false claim. She's had a history of lies, and her own ex-husband has a restraining order against her. The SVU was beginning to feel the sting of this viral video. So, what happens after that is Jovan is not impressed. He's angry. He explains to her that now he's lost his job. He was laid off because the information about his previous addiction came out, and his boss wanted nothing to do with him. He tells her now that this is wrong. She tells him that the NYPD has a lot of work to do, including herself. She says, I have a lot of work to do. I love this sandwich. Oh my God, it's so good. Jovan says, yeah, you do. And he jogs off. Now we see Olivia standing there watching him jog off. She's so sad. You can see it in her eyes. It's almost like she wants to cry. And it's affecting her because she knows she wrongfully arrested him. And now this lawsuit is out and there's nothing she can do about it. But she's also upset because the case for Eric will never be solved, since we know that Joe has gotten off. That Jovan will never forget about being arrested wrongly. That it's out there now. In the universe, the internet wins. It's got it out there again. So there's no justice for Eric, no justice for Jovan, and possibly no justice for her. I guess we'll find out next week what happens. This episode frustrated me so much, but I'm still a fan of Law and Order SVU, y'all. Let's see what happens next. I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let everybody know what your girl is doing over here. I'm keeping it real. I'm keeping it relevant with you. We talk about all kinds of subjects. The subject is the subject because Evie says so. I'm telling you I love you, and I want you guys to have a great day. Stay safe. Stay in the house, and if you can, and take care of yourself and your family. I'll see you guys later. I love you. Bye-bye.